So this version of yourself that you have cultivated for a very long time has its routine, has its beliefs, has its patterns. So you waking up one day and trying to introduce a whole new version, a successful version that works out, that eats right, that vlogs as often as they say they will vlog. It's very terrifying to your old version. It's absolutely uncomfortable. And they will do everything in here to try make sure that you do not threaten that status quo. Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to Tinyari in Real Life. So if you're new here, you know we are a bit of a jack of all trades and master of plenty. And today we're talking about something that I have observed about myself, but also something that is very common, which is just the general fear of being seen, the fear of being perceived. And I know there's like a lot of conversations around the fear of failure or the fear of not succeeding. But I think there's something as real as the fear of success that obviously leads you to want to self-sabotage. What is it exactly? This is what happens when you're getting close to your goals or when you're formulating your goals in your mind and then you start to imagine what might happen if you achieve these goals. And then that fear of that version of who you become when you achieve those goals or who you become when you create the thing that you have been hoping to create sabotages you and makes you want to stop in your tracks. You know that little voice in your head when you're about to create something or when you're manifesting something, the things that go on in the theater of your imagination. You see the pictures, you see this new version of yourself and who she is and how she moves and how she talks, and you really love that, right? You're really there for that, and you say, okay, I want to build this business. I want to start here. This is who I am at the moment, but this is who I'm going to become. And that entire picture that you draw is very beautiful, isn't it? But then the moment you start thinking about the actions that you will take to do it and you plan it, the moment you're about to perform these actions, there's a voice inside you that starts questioning, but what if you fail? Or what if this doesn't go right? I dare say I truly understand. I totally get it. It's like putting a spotlight on yourself, right? You invite judgment, you invite vulnerability on your part, you invite possible criticism, and even, you know, jealousy. But I'm really not big on that word because I really don't care so much about outside energy in as much as it matters. I think what goes on inside yourself or what you perceive inside yourself matters more than what happens outside. I'm not saying that it's irrelevant or it's immaterial, but I think you should focus more on the energy that you're putting out because that's what you're gonna get. So I think when I'm talking about these things and I think about factors that might cause someone to self-sabotage, I just imagine the things that go on in yourself first, inside of your spirit first. I think I focus more on those ones. Anyway, so those kind of thoughts start to paralyze you. And I remember when I started creating on TikTok not so long ago, a couple of viral videos. And I remember those were like my worst nightmares, right? Because it's like, okay, damn, what do I do now? It's like you get what you wanted. Basically, when you're creating, you're not thinking, okay, I want to go viral, or maybe sometimes you just want to make at least for me, I want to make like something impactful, or I shared something that was very funny to me or quirky and it trends. And I remember I would literally became so paralyzed. I didn't want to reply to the comments. Oh my God, actually it was a video we made. It wasn't a video, it was a film, right? It was a LGBTQ awareness. Oh my God, that was such a great film. I don't know why Kenya Film Commission in Kenya decided to ban it. We had hit 1 million views on YouTube, actually. Shout out to Sonia, who wrote that great script, and Deritu, who produced it. Anyway, so I posted that on my TikTok, right? Well, earlier on when we had just released it, and it went crazy. And I was so scared. I was literally so paralyzed. I couldn't even watch the video. I wanted it to be like something that I don't have to deal with. It's something that it's there, yeah, but I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to actively think about it. I wasn't replying to the comments. I remember it was so crazy. I even deleted it. I don't know if you watched it or if you remember it. The name was Love is Love. It was, I think some few people who maybe followed us for a while might recall. I don't think the fear that I was experiencing at that time was a fear of failure. It was actually a fear of success because we were doing very well. And me feeling so paralyzed and immobile in that stance just meant that I wasn't ready to be held responsible for this new version of myself, this version that creates this kind of content. Think about who you become whenever you have to create something new, or whenever you have to follow through with the goals that you have set for yourself. Maybe that day you said, tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do this. We are creatures of habit and routine. We want to stick to the same comfort zone. So that morning when you wake up, at least for me, sometimes it would manifest itself as I want to do any other thing other than go to the gym. I'd rather even start cleaning and tidying my space, just finding distractions so that I don't have to go and do this one particular thing that I've decided I will do. And I think that is a very important thing to note. And I think that's where self-awareness comes in. Well, let's say you want to start a new business, right? That new version, that version of yourself that has a business, that version of yourself that is creating content. There's a lot of pressure that will go into that person. She has to wake up early. She has to write a business plan. She has to write, and you don't want that part of your psyche that wants you to remain safe in the usual, the laziness, the not trying. So this other version that you're trying to introduce requires so much from yourself that you want to sabotage that it's a threat to your previous version. So you don't want to go through the work, and I cannot blame you. There's an identity change. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of change in your routine. There's how people, when you put yourself out there or you put your ideas out there, people will have to see you. And that can be a bit intimidating. You can extrapolate this to literally anything that you can imagine. Weight loss, a new milestone. And this is why there are so many employees, the cliche, right? But there's less employees than there are employers, because the grit and the guts and the audacity it takes for you to dare to want to put yourself in a position where you might fail. Psychologically, we want to remain where we feel safe. Version of you that has already created whatever it is they're dreaming of. And we are all creators. Oh my God, I don't remember who. His name is Alex. Alex is such an underrated rapper. He's a doctor, but he raps for fun. Maybe one time I might host him actually. So Alex, if you're hearing this, maybe let's sit down. And we were talking about death and grief at that time. And he told me that he stopped fearing death when he started creating, when he started putting something out to the universe. It's creating, he explained to me. Starting a business is creating, building something, anything, putting an idea into actionable steps or into something tangible, that is creating. And so in general, when you look at it, we're all creators of sorts. And even God said this, oh my gosh, I mean, in the Bible, right? There's a scripture that says, have I not said to you that you are gods? I mean, what does that mean? It means that you guys are creators. When they say, you're made in the likeness of God. That's exactly what it means. Anyway, all this to say, I'm going to have a Sunday school session later because I'm feeling called. Anyway, so this is all to say that you're a creator. Think about anybody who's building anything. They're creating something. And in that process of creation, that's where the fear comes in. That's where the self-sabotage comes in. And this is exactly why we do it, because you're psychologically, you want to stay safe. You want to stay in the familiar. And this version of yourself that is succeeding is unfamiliar. This current version of yourself, remember, you have cultivated it and built it for a very long time. I even say this about weight loss. It's like you want to wake up one day and lose all the weight that you gained over a 3-year period. It's unrealistic. So this version of yourself that you have cultivated for a very long time has its routine, has its beliefs, has its patterns. So you waking up one day and trying to introduce a whole new version, a a successful version that works out, that eats right, that vlogs as often as they say they will vlog. It's very terrifying to your old version. It's absolutely uncomfortable. And they will do everything in here to try make sure that you do not threaten that status quo. So when you're trying to disturb that peace, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. That's where the mental work comes in. That's where you have to be you versus you in a very pathetic attempt to remain in control. Then you end up being very happy in the short term, right? You end up not eating the vegetable. Oh my God, speaking of which, chapatis are going to be the end of me. But I don't think chapatis are bad. I think it's like excessive chapati. Anyway, I digress. It's like you're going to be very happy in the short term. You're going to be very comfortable in the short term. But obviously now that is at the expense of your future self. That is at the expense of who you could be. So I'm literally saying this as I tell this to myself, because I'm also like trying to learn the ropes of being consistent and even daring to be out there and daring to put my authentic, unfiltered thoughts out there, because I have plenty. So how do we overcome this? And I'm also saying this to myself because I'm learning this. So this is sort of like a moment of Dear Diary. But I think some things that I am learning along the way is self-awareness, being very aware and catching yourself when you're having those conversations in your head, and try. It's like the wolf that you feed, right? Are you gonna feed the bad wolf or the good wolf? If there's something like that, it's like, okay, you have to catch yourself and you have to name it. You have to say, look, I don't want to pick up the mic and say my thoughts because I'm afraid of what people are gonna think. I'm afraid of blah 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 blah. When you name it, you can tame it. So you catch it in that moment and you say, okay, you know what? I hear what you're trying to tell me, but I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to the other version of myself that is like already seeing where we are at, my desired version. And I start to reframe my thoughts in that moment that I caught them. It's like, okay, I don't want to go to the gym today, right? But what are the repercussions of that? What am I sacrificing? It's like, you cannot not sacrifice anything. I want to eat my junk yesterday. I don't want to go to the gym today. I'm going to have a very nice day. I'm going to enjoy my chapatis and chocolates and whatever nonstop. I'm balanced. But then at what expense, right? So at the expense of the fact that tomorrow I'm going to feel like crap. At the expense of the fact that the next day I cannot go, walk as fast as I could. I cannot run the marathon. And my health is going to be a bit shit, right? So you have to choose in that particular moment which wolf you're going to go with. Constantly doing that is going to rewire your brain. Of course, it's all over time, right? It's like training a muscle. You're not going to go to the gym today and lift 50 kgs if you've never stepped in there. Oh, some people can. Maybe bench 50 kgs or whatever your upper limit would be. No, you have to train it slowly. You start at 5, you fail some days, but over time you're going to get there, right? And you cannot imagine how untamable we are as creatures. Like, we give ourselves goals. We know the benefits of doing the goals. Of like chasing that goal, and we still do not do it. It's like smoking. I've always wondered why people smoke cigarettes when the advertisements are so scary. People don't care about that. It's like, okay, in the moment I'm going to be relieved, right? But then after a couple of years, that's when I could fall sick potentially. But that is not like an immediate threat. Holding yourself accountable, but also understanding your nature is like you want to satisfy your current whim, right? That's why we eat sweet stuff knowing that our teeth could rot, but our teeth are not rotting right now, right? So it's like, okay, it doesn't really matter. So this is how we form bad habits. It's like, okay, I'm going to smoke a cigarette right now, so I'm not going to be anxious or stressed anymore in the next 5 minutes. What if I get cancer in 20 years? That doesn't seem like a threat at the moment, but it sure is a threat. So you being able to look at yourself and say, okay, you know what? Am I sacrificing myself now for a little bit of like a short-term gratification? Or am I willing to sacrifice a short-term gratification right now and get the bigger goal? Third step that I'm taking right now is embracing vulnerability and authenticity. It's absolutely scary to allow yourself to be seen for who you truly are, but it's also very empowering. And the best thing that I'm learning from this is that you get to also attract your tribe, the people who value you for who you actually are. Extremely empowering to be able to also look at yourself and be able to identify with that person, right? Other than a polished, unrealistic, unreal version to yourself that you may have put out there. And social media is notorious for making us want to do this because we like to only highlight our good moments when we're winning, when we are happy, when we have the job, not when we lose it, when we're getting married, not when we divorce. I applaud Vera Sidika. Yes, I binge watched. Wow, I'm so Meru that seeing some of these words can be such a tongue twister. Binge watched. I binge watched Real Housewives of Nairobi, right? And I really, of all the thoughts that I have to share right now, the most relevant one is that I think Vera Sidika is so authentic. Authentic, please don't come for me, in the fact that she set up an entire divorce party. And this is like testament to the fact that, I mean, we can celebrate our good moments too, but we don't have to be ashamed and hide our chaos and when life is not exactly how we hoped it will be. That's the beauty of it, right? So I think that's where authenticity comes in and vulnerability. We are all going through life, right? It's not that polished Instagram version that we always post. So I just want to encourage you that if you're watching this and you're going through that daunting stage of not knowing what this is or who you are and what that's gonna lead to, success or like visibility and allowing yourself to be seen for who you are, it's definitely daunting. It's absolutely scary, but it's all part of the journey. And you're not going to know unless you know, right? You're not going to know unless you try and you put yourself out there. So you have to choose if you're going to be stuck with your what if I did it or what now after I did it. And I think the latter sounds more exciting. So thank you so much for watching. I'd really love to hear if this resonates with anybody else, or maybe I have already lost it and I'm in now an entire world of my own that is like completely cuckoo, or if you resonate and what your self-sabotage experiences and situations have been. And you never know, you're hoping that this is the community that we all build. If you're watching this, you and I, is how we pull each other out of the mud and we sort of like be like that torch, right? Like that guiding torch for each other. Like, you know, watch my back, I watch yours. It's like maybe you've gone through experiences that are very potholy, right? And you wouldn't want me to trip, right? So if you can warn me beforehand, why not? And the vice versa. So thank you so much for watching this episode, and do hit the like or subscribe if you haven't, if you like